Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Paul Melchor, and I am the Digital Marketing Manager for Crouse Financial Services. Today's webinar is VA Planning for the Married Couple. Attendees will be in listen-only mode, but if you have questions, please utilize the question portion of your GoToWebinar toolbar. We will post a recording of today's webinar along with our slides to our website within the next 24 hours. Please participate in a brief survey at the end of the webinar, as it is always very helpful to hear from you. And now, I would like to introduce you to Attorney Dale Crouse, CEO and President of Crouse Financial Services. Dale, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, it's great to be back with another webinar. In the past, we've done most of our VA benefits webinars involving single veterans, and there were so many requests for doing the married couple that I thought it would be a good time to introduce this topic. So today's program is dealing with the married couple and VA benefits. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I've been practicing law since 1985, primarily in the elder law estate planning arena. And for the last 26 years, Crouse Financial Services and its team of planners have been helping elder law attorneys throughout the country qualify their clients for both Medicaid and veterans benefits to pay for long-term care. And so again, we look forward to working with each and every one of you and hope you enjoyed today's program. Now, the goal of today's presentation is really to educate you on the Veterans Administration program known as Housebound and Aid Attendance. Now, Housebound is a program that provides a benefit to veterans, but primarily the one that's talked about the most and the one we're going to work with today is what's known as Aid and Attendance. And it's really designed to pay a monthly check to a veteran or the surviving spouse of a veteran who qualifies. And so it's a great way to pay for long-term care costs when they're experiencing those out-of-pocket costs and they're worried about how am I going to continue to pay. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about the annuities that are used in VA plans so that you understand that if your clients already have annuities or they need an annuity, you're going to be ready to help them understand what's going on. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate how you accelerate a couple's opportunity to go on the A&A benefit by restructuring their net worth through a VA-compliant immediate annuity. Now, when we talk about long-term care, we all know that there's a transition, that as we age, more likely than not, we're going to need more care from places like home health care, assisted living, and finally the nursing home. And so most long-term care starts with the family, and then when they need a specialist or an RN or they need someone to come in who can provide a level of care that's typically not available by way of a family member, we look to the home health care system. And so home health care agencies will do assessments to determine what are the long-term needs of someone. And then we find that when the long-term care becomes so often that they really need care where someone looks in on them every day, then we start looking at assisted living facilities. And then finally, once the care gets to a point where, you know, they really need someone looking in on them throughout the day, 7 days a week, we look to the nursing home to provide that type of care. Now we're talking about a single occupant in a one-bedroom unit. Now we're spending about $43,000 a year or $3,600 a month. When we get to the nursing home level, now we're talking about a semi-private room, 2 people. We're going to spend about $6,844 a month, or about $82,000 per year. So the costs become more as they go down that road. So when you start out, it may be next to nothing, but we all know that generally our health as we get older is probably going to worsen rather than get better, and so we can expect to pay more as we advance in age. Now, when we look at the VA program and Medicaid, where do they come in and help? Well, the VA really does a good job at the home health care level or assisted living, because what the VA benefit does is it provides a limited payment amount. So there's a maximum you can get depending on whether or not you're a single veteran or a married veteran. But the Medicaid program does a better job when we get to the nursing home level because it can pay 100% of the cost. And so as a planner, you're going to be looking to the VA benefit to really help in those situations where you got home health care or assisted living expenses. And then when they transition to the nursing home level, generally you're going to give up the VA benefit and move on to the Medicaid. Now, there's two types of veterans out there. You have the service-connected veteran and you have the non-service-connected veterans. The veterans we want to work with the aid and attendance program is the non-service connected. And really, the difference between the two is if a veteran serves his or her country and during the time of duty they're injured or an illness occurs, something that causes them to have a permanent type of disability, they're going to receive a rating from the VA. And the higher the rating, the more benefits they get from the VA. So what we're really talking about when we talk about veterans for the program that we're working with, we're talking about the veteran who served his or her country. Nothing happened while they were in. They put in their 2, 3, 4 years in the military. They got out. Everything was fine. And now, since they're older, let's say they're 65, 70 years of age, the fact that they served their country many years ago, that's the important point of qualifying them. But they didn't leave the military with any type of disability or any type of rating or disability check. They find themselves now later in life needing to pay for long-term care. And so that's the veteran we're working with, the non-service connected veteran who now is going to look either to obtain housebound or aid and attendance benefits. So who is a non-service connected veteran? You know, again, it's someone who got out, served their country. In order to meet this standard, they have to have served a minimum of 90 days active duty, and 1 day that has to be during a wartime. And so I think most of the veterans we're seeing now are coming from the Korean conflict, the Vietnam War, because those veterans now are in their 60s, 70s, and those are the ones now that are facing long-term care expenses. When we look at the other service requirement, not only do they have to serve 90 days and have 1 day during a wartime, they have to have a proper discharge. Now, I personally have never seen a dishonorable discharge. Most veterans are going to leave the service with an honorable discharge, so that's really not a problem for most veterans. So I think if you're going to look to try to figure out when did they serve, what type of discharge did they get, you should be asking the veteran to bring in what's known as a DD-214. That's a discharge paper. It tells you everything that occurred with that veteran while they were in the service. It talks about when they entered, when they were discharged. It talks about where they served, and it lists the type of discharge that they received. So rather than rely on their memory, as part of your intake sheet, you should request that document from a potential veteran, which again is the DD-214. So now we've talked about the qualified veteran, proper service. In other words, they served 90 days active duty, 1 day during a wartime, and they have the proper discharge. Now, when we talk about surviving spouses of veterans, what we're really talking about is a surviving spouse who was married to a veteran and who predeceased, and now she's up there in years and says, you know, I've got long-term care expenses I need to pay for. Can I qualify for the aid and attendance benefit? And the answer is yes, as long as she doesn't remarry. So if she was married to the veteran at the time of his death, he then passes away and he met the requirements for the program, she can qualify as a surviving spouse of a non-service connected qualified veteran. So again, there's a lot of spouses out there who are married to veterans who have passed away many years ago who don't realize that they can get help with their long-term care expenses. Now, the next requirement, which is a non-financial requirement, is a permanent and total disability. So now, again, we're talking about the single veteran, or we're talking about the veteran who's married, but the veteran needs the care, or we're talking about the surviving spouse of a veteran. You know, the veteran in both first cases or the surviving spouse of a veteran have to have a permanent and total disability. Well, if you look generally at that term, most people say, well, once you're 65, you're disabled, but they want something more than that. The VA is going to want to know that whatever your condition is, it's permanent. It's going to last at least a year and could potentially result in death. So what they're really trying to avoid with this qualifier is they don't want someone who's got a temporary disability. So generally, when we're thinking about that veteran, let's say it's a Vietnam War veteran who's now age 70, who's in assisted living, it's likely they're not going to get out of assisted living. At the time they entered, there was an assessment. The assessment indicated they had a medical condition that was likely to get worse and they would need more care over time. That's what we're looking for. So when we talk about permanent and total disability, what are we really talking about? We're really talking about an individual's inability to perform activities of daily living. So when we talk about those types of things, we're talking about medication management, meal preparation, assistance with eating, bathing, dressing, walking, toileting, transferring. When we look at those items, what we're really saying is that if you have a problem with these activities of daily living and the situation is such that it's not going to get better, someone with Parkinson's or who has a cognitive impairment, they're going to need help. And if they don't remember to do certain things, it's going to be a lifetime of care. And so the whole purpose of the permanent and total disability is they have to be able to show that as a result of it, they're unable to perform activities of daily living. And activities of daily living are nothing more than things you need to do in order to maintain a safe environment. So the first VA benefit that's out there, and it's one that I haven't really worked with much, but it's known as the Housebound. The Housebound VA benefit is where you can get a pension check to pay for care, and that person is permanently confined to his or her home. So it's not as though they're confined there and can't leave. It's just the fact that they can't because of a medical condition, but they don't need someone to come into the home every day. Because if they needed help every day, they would be looking to qualify for aid and attendance. With this person, their help really comes into play because they need maybe a home health care agency to come in twice a week to do certain things for them. And then the other time that they really leave the home is they need transportation or the assistance of someone else to go to a doctor's appointment or things of that nature. So again, it's a person that's in their home who doesn't require activities of daily living assistance every day and typically leaves the home to attend doctor's appointments. This person would qualify under the Housebound benefit within the VA program. Now the Housebound benefit doesn't pay as much or have the ability to pay as much per month as the aid and attendance benefit, and this is what it'll pay. For the single veteran, it'll pay $1,314 a month, and for the married veteran, in other words, the veteran needs the care, it'll pay $1,647 a month, and for the surviving spouse of a veteran, it pays $881 per month. Now, when I compare these ability to get these checks each month from the VA to the aid and attendance, in each of these categories, they're about $400 less per month than aid and attendance. But remember, what's important with the Housebound, it's because they don't need the level of assistance that's required for purpose of aid and attendance, which is going to require care on a daily basis. So when we talk about aid and attendance and the veteran or the surviving spouse of a veteran who qualifies for that, again, they're permanently confined, whether it be at home or in assisted living or even a nursing home, and they need the assistance with 2 or more ADLs on a daily basis in order to maintain their safe environment. Now again, we're thinking, I'm thinking nursing home for sure, because nursing homes generally, you're not going to be able to get into a nursing home without 2 or more ADLs being deficient. But even with assisted living, you could be in assisted living because of a cognitive impairment and the fact that you don't remember when to take your medications, so someone comes in every day and helps you with the medications. The fact that you're permanently confined, you got a condition that's permanent, it's not going to get better, 2 or more ADLs, that person can get a check from the VA known as aid and attendance. And it's a check designed to help them pay for the costs or the services. So with the aid and attendance pension benefit, I know that a single veteran, the maximum amount they can receive is $1,794 per month. A married veteran, and again, the veteran is the one who needs the care, can get $2,127. And the surviving spouse of a qualified veteran can get $1,153. Now again, these are about $400 less than what you get under Housebound, but it's because the level of care is required on a daily basis, or at least they need assistance on a daily basis. So if you look at the 2016 Genworth Cost of Care Survey for assisted living, you can see that if the cost of that facility is $3,628 per month, that if a married veteran needs that type of care, if he can get $2,127 per month, it certainly can help pay that big ticket item. And so for most veterans, especially when we're talking about the married situation, you know, what they generally do is they go into their life savings for the $36.28 a month, and it doesn't take long and they're wiped out. But if I can get them together a plan that helps them now to get $2,127 a month just by rearranging what they currently have in terms of assets and income, you know, it puts a big dent in that monthly bill, and it allows them to stretch their life savings. Now, the next requirement is a low monthly income. And really all this means is, you know, a lot of times veterans will say, you know, I'm worried about the future and I might need long-term care and I know it costs a lot. Is it something I can plan for? Well, the low monthly income requirement really states for the premise that if you have to pay for care, and like in the last example, if someone has to pay $3,628 a month, and let's say you're a single veteran, but they've only got $1,500 a month in monthly income from Social Security and pension, they're going to qualify under the low monthly income test. And the reason for that is their unreimbursed recurring monthly expenses, the assisted living bill, is more than their monthly income. And so that's how you satisfy the low monthly income test, by showing that your monthly unreimbursed recurring medical expenses exceed your monthly income from Social Security pension. You're going to satisfy that test. So for most veterans, especially those in assisted living, very seldom do you see someone who has $3,800 of monthly income from Social Security and pension. So this is a very easy test to meet. Now, when we deal with married couples, a lot of times people say, well, if the veteran needs the care, do we only look at his income and expenses? And the answer is no. In a married veteran case, you have to pool their income and also pool their expenses to figure out whether or not they qualify under the low monthly income test. Now, so when we talk about recurring unreimbursed monthly medical expenses, especially when you're doing the first application for a veteran, because again, what the Veterans Administration wants to know is that they have a permanent disability and a permanent need, because they don't want to think that they're in a temporary situation where things are going to change. And so, again, you're going to have a veteran who has ongoing expenses. It can't be something they're worried about. They have to be experiencing out-of-pocket charges for, like, home health care. Most of your home health care agencies, if someone's at home, they're going to bill on a monthly basis, and it's going to be the same amount every month until the assessment changes and the care level increases. The same is true with assisted living. You go into an assisted living facility, they assess what your needs are, they then tell you what it's going to cost, because, you know, I can go into an assisted living and say, look, I need assistance every morning with dressing, or I need assistance with bathing, and then the rest of the day I'm good until later when I need something else. They will bill based on what your needs are, but the bill will remain the same until your situation changes. And then other recurring monthly bills would be for Medicare or health insurance. Most people have, you know, health insurance that they're paying for, especially when we're talking about a married couple. And so they'll have those bills on a regular basis. The other thing, excuse me, the other thing that comes out on a monthly basis would be your Medicare copays and deductibles. Now those I don't worry about as much, because usually those are fixed amounts. In other words, a certain portion of a bill, but it's hard to rely on those. So that's something I wouldn't look at too seriously. Another thing that I see is transportation costs. If you have the single veteran and they're going for a doctor's appointment and it's a regular appointment every month at the same time, or say it's 2 or 3 times a month, they're going to already pre-arrange for transportation, so they don't have to do it every time. And so they're going to get a regular bill each month, and you could add that. And then one other thing that I see is dealing with medical equipment and supplies. Someone who has an oxygen tank or certain durable goods that they are renting, you know, they're going to get a monthly rental charge. And so that's part of something that's on a more permanent basis. So when we talk about non-reoccurring, we're really talking about those bills that are isolated. In other words, you buy a pair of prescription glasses, you pay for them, it's done. Same goes with hearing aids, dentures, certain doctor bills, dentist bills. It's not something you're doing each month. Now you could pay monthly. I mean, certainly if your eyeglasses are $700 and you pay so much a month, we could consider that. But again, it's got to go a year or longer to really get into the formula. And so again, short-term prescriptions, a lot of people, when they have certain medical needs, it's for a short-term illness, and so we don't include those otherwise. And then skilled care treatments. Skilled care just tells me that they're rehabbing from an illness or injury, and it's something that's not designed to be long-term. So those things wouldn't be covered, especially on the first application, but you will get credit for them on the second year. So when the person reapplies and submits all of their updated information, these expenses will come into the total picture because the Veterans Administration understands that these are out-of-pocket expenses, and they're certainly medically related and they're not reimbursed, but you can't use these types of expenses on your first application. So the next requirement is low net worth. In other words, the person really they can't be a multimillionaire and qualify for the VA program. And if you go to the VA website and you look it up, they really say there's no limit on how much you can have. It just can't be excessive. So that's kind of elusive in a sense that some people might think, well, $200,000 is a lot of money, and other people may think $200,000 is not. So you really can't rely on that. I mean, we find that other websites will tell us that a single person can keep $50,000 and a married client can keep $80,000. Again, I think those numbers are high, but there certainly are cases where that would be allowed, especially if their monthly income was significantly less than their unreimbursed medical expenses. Now, the rule of thumb is the older the claimant, so the older the veteran, the older the surviving spouse of a veteran is, they should keep less, or less. Now, when we do a plan for a client, generally what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the net worth by creating additional income. And so as we get the income to be more par with the medical expenses, then we're going to suggest that they keep something less than, for a single person, we're generally in our plan going to let them keep about $15,000. And then if we have a married couple, it's going to be closer to $25,000. Because again, what we're going to do, especially with the plan you see today, is we're going to take their net worth down. If a married client had $80,000 and we took them down to $25,000, we're going to do that by taking part of the $80,000 and converting it to an income stream. And that's something that our planning allows us to do. It allows the veteran to then qualify for this program. So what assets are excluded from a person's net worth? Well, the VA doesn't count the residence. They don't count one motor vehicle, personal property found in the typical home, prepaid burial arrangements because everybody should have a funeral, and then they don't count immediate annuities. And that's really what we're going to do when we're talking about taking excess net worth and converting it into something that's not counted as an asset, and that's an immediate annuity. So what is included in net worth? Well, everything on this slide is counted. So if there's second automobiles, RVs, motorhomes, checking accounts, savings, cash, tax-deferred annuities, which have cash surrender value, certificate of deposits, all of these items are counted. And then the other thing that's counted is retirement accounts. The VA says if you have a retirement account, despite the fact that you're taking RMD because you're past age 70 and a half, they still count the total value of the retirement account if it's available to you. So again, the retirement account is going to be part of that $15,000 or $25,000 that we're looking to retain. So you have to spend down retirement accounts. A retirement account for VA purposes is not protected if all you're doing is taking RMD. You have to, if the account is available to your client, it's considered a countable asset to the extent of its cash value. So when do you really consider VA planning? Well, I always tell elder law attorneys that you have to have a qualified veteran or the surviving spouse of a qualified veteran. So they have to have the service requirements, proper discharge, and then they have to be receiving home health care or assisted living care because they have to have out-of-pocket expenses, and then they have to have a condition that's not expected to improve. It's their permanent disability, and then they have to have an excess of net worth. If a person meets all of their requirements, but they don't have an excessive net worth, they could be eligible immediately. And there's many individuals out there that are. But the clients we want to work with in order to put together a plan would have excessive net worth and wouldn't be eligible if they applied with what they have. So let's take this case study. It involves Clarence and Mary. Clarence is a 79-year-old Korean War veteran with failing health. In other words, he's not going to get better. Mary's age 75. She's in great health. Mary took care of Clarence for as long as she could at home, and if I remember the case facts correctly, she was taking care of him for 2 or 3 years before he went into the assisted living facility. Now, the cost of his care is $3,950, and so that's the real crux of this plan, is how do they pay that? Well, when you look at what they have in terms of assets, they have a home valued at $175,000. Mary bought a new car, and it's a newer car today. It's worth $26,000. She also has household furnishings. She puts a value of $35,000 on, which probably aren't worth that if you tried to sell them. But none of those things are important because the VA excludes them all from the net worth calculation. But what the VA is going to count against Clarence and Mary is the fact they have $220,000 in their savings account. Now, at the same time, Clarence receives $1,600 from Social Security. He also has $400 from a pension. So Clarence receives a total of $2,000 a month in income. Mary, on the other hand, receives $800 from Social Security. So their combined monthly income is $2,800. Now remember, what's the cost of the assisted living facility? It's $3,950. Well, when you only have $2,800 coming in, and we know Mary needs something to live on, they're going to have to go into their savings account in order to pay that bill. So that's really Mary's big concern. She's already done the math. She said, if I have $220,000 and I need the bulk of our monthly income to meet my expenses, the money's only going to last 55 months. And she's worried because not only does she have good health, but she's afraid that Clarence could live 55 months in assisted living, for which there'd be nothing left for her to live on other than their $2,800 a month. And so rather than sustain, an uncertain future, Mary decides to meet with an elder law attorney who's certified in VA benefits and brings along her financial planner who put together a VA plan for Clarence. So what do? Well, the first thing they have to do is they have to do a financial analysis to determine where do they stand. So the financial planner takes time with Mary and says, if you look at the second block, and says, Mary, what do you need to live on? Because in order for me to put a financial plan together, I've got to know what it is you need per month in order to meet your expenses. So Mary determines that all of her out-of-pocket expenses on a monthly basis, covering real estate taxes, homeowners insurance, car insurance, food, car expenses, miscellaneous home repairs, she figures that she needs $1,800 a month out of their $2,800 in order to make ends meet. And at the same time, in order to figure out if we meet the low income test for the VA, we have to figure out what are their unreimbursed reoccurring medical expenses equal. So in that category, which is the blue box on the top, we put the assisted living facility, we added that to their 2 Medicare Part B plans that they pay for, and then we also added on their 2 Medicare supplemental insurance plans. In other words, Mary has one, Clarence has one as well, and the total cost of their unreimbursed medical expenses is $4,558. Well, if we go to the last box, we know that if their monthly income is $2,800 and their unreimbursed monthly medical expenses are $4,558, that they have a low monthly income because they're short $1,758. Now, what does that do for purposes of the VA? Well, the VA, as long as that number is negative, in other words, your income is less than your out-of-pocket medical expenses, you're going to be entitled to the maximum VA benefit in the category in which they're in. And the category they're in is, Clarence and Mary is a married couple, so they would get the married benefit. But what's more important about that is because their monthly income is less than their unreimbursed monthly medical expenses, they don't have to worry about that VA benefit being reduced dollar for dollar. But if, in the same example, if they had $5,000 of monthly income and their unreimbursed medical expenses were $45.58, their VA benefit that they could get, which is $2,127, would be reduced dollar for dollar by that excess, which would be about $500. If you take $5,000 in monthly income and subtract $4,558, they would lose about dollar for dollar part of that VA benefit. So what does the plan for Mary look like? What does their plan look like? Well, we know that in their case they have $220,000 of savings. So they pay the estate planning attorney $5,500. It could be more or less depending on their needs. They pay for 2 funerals, $16,000. They paid some outstanding bills, and then they left $25,000 in savings for Mary. So the net result is there's $158,500 that needs to go into a spend down, because we know that in order to get the VA benefit, we've got to show we have a low net worth, and we do that by putting this $158,500 into a VA compliant immediate annuity. So before I get into the actual annuity for Mary, let me just talk briefly about immediate annuities. Now, the annuities we use for VA planning, we're really talking about an immediate annuity. That's one that's converted into a monthly income stream, because most clients will have a tax-deferred annuity, and a tax-deferred annuity has cash surrender value, meaning that it would still be a resource to the extent of that value. Now, the other thing that's important about an immediate annuity is once it's annuitized, it has no cash surrender value. The only thing the insurance company is going to do is pay the monthly payment to the owner of that annuity. In this case, it would be Mary. Now, the immediate annuity, which is a level payout, is the most common. And what we try to do is we never try to exceed someone's Medicaid life expectancy, because we know that even though Mary buys the annuity today to help Clarence get on VA benefits, if Mary at some point in the future needed to go into a nursing home and qualify for Medicaid, we want her product to not be in violation of the Medicaid rules. So again, it's important to make sure you have flexibility in the product so that you can meet the Medicaid requirements. Now, when we talk about immediate annuities, you could have a balloon style. Now, the difference between a level pay and a balloon style, and here's an example, if you put $100,000 in a level pay annuity and it was structured over 153 months, which is a 75-year-old female or Mary's age, I know that if it pays out over 153 months on a level pay basis, it would pay $679.01 per month. The total payout is just over $103,000. So it's more than the investment. Now, if you put $100,000 in the balloon style pay, and that's the last row, it's going to pay out in months 1 through 152, $59.10. In the very last month, the bulk of the investment comes out in the form of a payment, which is $98,529.10, for a total payout of $107,512. Now, the only time that we're going to use a balloon style annuity would be if we stretch the level pay annuity over Mary's maximum life expectancy, 153 months. And if we had a net worth that was so large that the amount put into the annuity stretched over 153 months, gave us a monthly payment that caused us to lose the VA benefit, then what we would do in Mary's case is we'd sell a level pay and a balloon together because the combination will get us exactly what we need for our monthly income. Because remember, it's important to have the right amount of monthly income. You don't want to create too much monthly income, because for every dollar you exceed their unreimbursed monthly medical expenses, you start to lose dollar for dollar of the potential VA benefit. So in this case, a very simple way to explain it is if you had $100,000 in a level pay and $100,000 in a balloon for Mary structured over her maximum life expectancy, those two things together would pay $679 a month, plus you get $59, so she'd get a little over $700. If that amount was enough to keep us within our test, that's a simple way to protect $200,000. But you can see that if you did one annuity with a $200,000 level pay over 153 months, it would pay over $1,300 a month, because she'd get that $679.01 times 2. So again, not that it's important in this case, because in this case Mary only needs a level pay annuity. I just want you to know that in your higher net worth cases, they can use the combination of the two products in order to get that monthly income stream so it's perfect, so we don't lose any right to the VA benefit. So when deciding which annuity to use, I really just look at their age, gender, and I'm really doing that for purposes of the life expectancy. I want to know what's their monthly income need, and then I want to know what their excess net worth is, because I don't want to stretch the annuity over the maximum term if the monthly payment's too small and doesn't allow me to meet my objectives. And that's exactly what happened in Mary's case. In Mary's case, we put $158,500 in an annuity. We only structured it over 100 months. Now, we could have gone 153 months, but in Mary's case, we need to get her $1,625.24 a month, meaning we had to shorten the term so we can accomplish our goal to maximize their income, but still maintain the maximum VA benefit. So what does it look like? Well, we know that once we set up the annuity, their total monthly income is $4,425.24. And that number is comprised of Clarence's Social Security, Clarence's pension, Mary's Social Security, and the annuity payment. So that amount is there. We then subtract the unreimbursed monthly medical expenses, which was $4,558. They still have a low monthly income because their monthly medical expenses are more than their monthly income to the extent of $132.76, which entitles them to $2,127 in an aid and attendance benefit. So when you do all that math, they end up with a surplus of $1,994.24. Well, why do we need the surplus? Because Mary's got $1,800 of household expenses she needs to pay, and so by backing into this plan, we know that by buying her that annuity structured over 100 months, we'll leave $1,994.24 on the table, which gives Mary more than enough to meet her monthly living expenses. So the end result is not only does Clarence have what he needs to pay for his assisted living, but Mary has enough to cover her monthly expenses, which would then gives us the result where Mary doesn't have to go into that $25,000 savings account. So what does their cash flow look like? Well, the cash flow consists of all sources of funding. So with total monthly income of $4,425 plus that VA benefit, we know the total cash flow coming into their home is $6,552.24. And we also know that their total monthly expenses, which including medical and non-medical, is $6,358. And that amount is comprised between those two numbers on the right side, which leaves an excess cash flow of $194.24. Now, I know that's not a lot, but what we've done with this financial plan is we objectively looked at all of our hard expenses. We made arrangements to cover them all. And so if this plan works out and everybody stays on track, there's going to be $194.24 left over based on their monthly cash flow. So the final thing is, let's assume for the moment Clarence dies after 36 months in the assisted living facility. What was the economic result? Well, I know that if he received $2,127 a month for 36 months, together they received $76,572 in VA benefits. I mean, that's a great opportunity. I also know that Clarence received all of the care that he needed, so there was nothing short there. A lot of times people, when they run out of money, they'll try to skimp on care, but Clarence got everything he needed. And then Mary maintained control. She still has the house, she has her car, she has her funeral, she has all the furniture and personal property. She also has the $25,000 in savings. Now, the other thing that changes as a result of Clarence's death is Mary's monthly income, because at that moment in time, Mary has to give up one of the Social Security checks, and because hers is less than Clarence, hers was only $800, she's going to take his and give up hers, and then his pension was $400 a month, and that continued 100% to her, and then she also has the annuity payment. So her total monthly income after Clarence's death is $3,825.24. Now remember back to when we started the plan, they had $2,800 between them, and she needed about $1,800 to pay her expenses. So because of that amount, I think it's a great result. She not only has everything she originally had, but now with her monthly income, being 38, 25, 24, because I think there were 64 payments. There were 64 payments left on her annuity. So her monthly income is going to maintain that $3,825.24 for at least the next 5 years, which at that point will make her, she'll be definitely age, well, she was 75 in the beginning. He made it 3 years, so she was 78 plus 5 more years. Yeah, she'll be about 85 years of age by the time it ends. So, it's a good plan. So when you look at her monthly income and you assume it's $38.25, which it would be, and her expenses are still the same, she's going to be able to put some money into that $25,000 savings account. And if all the math is correct, she should be able to put away about $2,025 a month for at least the next 64 months. So she could put actually $124,000 back into that account and get it up, close to $150,000 if she can control her expenses. So this plan was a great plan. I mean, in the beginning, Mary was concerned that, she wasn't going to be able to pay her way or have the money she needed in order to have those lifestyles she was accustomed to. So we took care of everyone's need and we left them in great shape. Now, one question that always comes up at this time is, what if Mary had an IRA, or what if Clarence had an IRA? So let's assume for the moment that the $220,000 they had in the beginning, $35,000 was in an IRA in Mary's name. What are we going to do with it? How do we work with it? And would it be any different if instead of Mary owning the $35,000 IRA, what if Clarence owned it? Well, nothing really changes. The only distinction they would have is you can't mix qualified funds in an annuity with non-qualified. So what I would have recommended to Mary if she had the $35,000 account is I said, instead of $25,000 in your savings account, why don't you keep $25,000 in your IRA? Let's use the $10,000 surplus and let's structure it over a 100-month immediate annuity that's IRA qualified. So again, instead of having just non-qualified money of $25,000 in the savings account, I would have said just keep your IRA account up to $25,000 and then we'll take the surplus. And then the balance would have gone into an immediate annuity like we did in the original example. So the math comes out the same. The only difference is Mary has two annuities. She has her $10,000 IRA immediate annuity and she has her other non-qualified annuity. And again, it wouldn't be any different if Clarence owned the $35,000 account. It wouldn't have been any different. Clarence would have had a $25,000 IRA account and would have had a $10,000 immediate annuity that's IRA qualified. But the math would have come out the same. So there's really no distinction. And when you're setting up these IRA immediate annuities, it's not a taxable event to transfer $25,000 into an immediate annuity. So if she has her $35,000 in a general IRA account with Edward Jones, we can transfer it into an account and keep it protected. Putting it in another form in an IRA is not a taxable event. It's when you take the money. So if she puts $10,000 into an IRA immediate annuity and gets the money over 100 months, each of those payments she receives would be a taxable event. Now again, there's other things to consider with IRAs, but I think at this point, it doesn't matter if they had an IRA or non-qualified funds, we can still work with it. Well, it looks like we're out of time, so I guess we're ready for some questions.
Thank you, Dale. I do have a few questions I'd like to ask. Does Mary's annuity have to be Medicaid compliant when applying for VA benefits?
No, as I pointed out, the difference between the two with a VA annuity, in order to meet their compliance test, it only requires that the monthly payments and the duration of payments be set up. So it could be a more traditional immediate annuity. If you have a Medicaid compliant immediate annuity, then it not only has to be irrevocable as to the payment amount and the duration, but it has to be irrevocable to the parties. In other words, you can't change the parties. And then the other thing the Medicaid program requires is that it be non-assignable, actuarially sound, have equal payments, and names the state as primary beneficiary. Now, some people will say, why don't we just make it Medicaid compliant in the beginning? I don't have a problem with that. I think the only dilemma you have is if Mary buys this annuity and it's Medicaid compliant and she were to die, and we'll assume that Clarence never went on Medicaid benefits, we have to clear out the primary beneficiary, being the state, before we can get the money to the kids. So it's not a problem, because the state's not going to have a claim, so it's just going to be a question of getting a letter from the state. But to answer your question briefly, no, her annuity does not have to be Medicaid compliant. It can just be a VA compliant immediate annuity. Is there another question?
Yes. Can a VA annuity be converted to a Medicaid compliant annuity?
Yes, the product we offer, I try to keep as much flexibility in the plan as possible, and so the VA annuities we offer, the company that offers them allows us to make the conversion. So if they transition from VA to Medicaid, we can change the beneficiary to the state Medicaid program. We can also make sure we have all the proper parties, and we can make it, add the non-assignable, irrevocable language so that it meets all the requirements. And so the company we use built the flexibility into the product, so not only can we qualify initially for VA, but we can add all the required features later so we can satisfy the Medicaid requirements. Is there another question?
Yes. Can the ill spouse that is not the veteran, can they still receive the benefits even if the veteran is healthy?
What benefits are we talking about?
The aid and attendance benefits.
No, when we're talking about the aid and attendance benefits, we're talking about a veteran who needs care, or we're talking about the veteran who needs care who's married, or we're talking about the surviving spouse of a veteran who needs care. We're not talking about a veteran who's healthy and the spouse is the one who needs the care. We're not talking about that type of case at all. Remember, the most important part of this is we have a veteran who needs care, whether it be a single veteran or a married veteran, or the surviving spouse of a veteran who qualified. So in other words, that surviving spouse would need the care. So those are the individuals we're looking at in terms of the aid and attendance benefit. Another question.
Okay. If a single veteran qualifies for aid and attendance and he has to go into, say, the nursing home, and he qualifies for Medicaid, would he still receive the full benefit?
No, you can't access two government programs at the same time. And so once he transitions from the assisted living or wherever he was getting the aid and attendance benefit, once he goes into a nursing home and qualifies economically for Medicaid, what the VA administration does is they reduce the benefit he was receiving down to $90. Is there another question?
Yes. Does the VA have a look back for Medicaid, or like Medicaid for gifting?
No. They're talking about it, and it's a proposed rule change where they want to have something similar to Medicaid, but right now there's no look back for gifts. So in other words, someone could be have a high net worth today, give it all away tomorrow, and then the next day they could apply. Technically, they would be eligible at that point in time. So there's no look back for gifts when we're talking about the VA. But the dilemma I think most families face is, yeah, you might be able to access the VA benefit in that manner, but what happens if you transition into a Medicaid setting within the next 5 years? You know, you're going to have to figure a way to get those funds back. And so I typically don't recommend gifting plans. Is there another question?
I think we just have time for one more.
Okay.
What does Cross Financial Services charge to develop a VA plan for a client?
Well, that's what's good about our program. What we do is if you give us a call and you want to explore the option of the aid and attendance benefit and you give us all of the facts, we'll put together a detailed planning letter specifically for your client, and we hope that with the opportunity that's reflected in the letter that they'll move forward and we'll close the plan. But if for some reason they decide no, it's not for them, or maybe their situation changes, we don't charge anything. So I've over the last 26 years, you know, I pretty much have offered my services and said if I can help, I want to. But if you want to explore our opportunity, all you have to do is contact us and talk to one of our planners, get the planning letter, and if the client wants to move forward, we do it. If they don't, you know, we'll wait until the next case. So there's no charge to you as the elder law attorney or to the client for us to develop the plan. Is that it?
Thank you. Yep, that is it for today. I just want to let everybody know that if you have a client that fits this criteria or even maybe a Medicaid plan, We do have benefit planners at our office. There they are. Amy, Aaron, Stuart, and Alex are very happy to help and answer any questions, whether via phone call or email. You can also ask questions on our website. So that's all I have for today's webinar. If we did not get to your questions, which I know there is a lot that came in at the end, we will follow up in the next few days. We will be posting a recording of today's webinar along with the slides to our website within 24 hours. There is a brief survey at the end. If you could please participate in the survey so we can better help you. And we would hope you would join us for our next webinar on March 16th, Intro to Medicaid Planning, hosted by Thomas Krause. This will be a great beginner level webinar so that you can help your clients who are interested in learning more about Medicaid planning. Keep in mind, if you're looking for a guest speaker for an upcoming event in 2017, please consider inviting Dale Krause to present. He does this at no charge and will travel or present remotely. If you're interested, please answer yes to the last survey question and contact our marketing department. Thank you, Dale, for a great presentation, and thank you to our attendees for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.